Alcoholic. Welcome everybody to the Conscious Contact Speaker Group. Just a couple quick announcements. Lack of power and signage is my dilemma. There we go. Test. All right, welcome everybody. Just a couple quick announcements and we'll get started. Food and fellowship starts at 8 o'clock, so please join us, come early. We're usually here about 7, setting up, getting ready. Could always use an extra hand. And any donations are greatly appreciated. Always looking for new home group members. We have an ongoing service commitment every Sunday night at the Pyramid Rehab in Quakertown. And this group alone has donated over 200 big books to recovery centers in this area. And we're on order for another 500. So all your donations are greatly appreciated, and they go towards the distribution of those big books to people in rehabs and recovery centers. So thank you very much. We have a sister group. It meets on Thursday nights just up the street on Salem Church on Court Street. It's a big book meeting at 7:30, and we're there early, about 6:30, putting the coffee on. Excellent meeting. We break down the big book slowly, so come join us there. Plenty of stuff to get and stay connected. We have a Facebook page, a Conscious Contact Speaker Group, a YouTube page. All of our speakers are uploaded on there. If you want information about that, come see any of the home group members after the meeting. And not too much else to report. We have the best chairperson this side of the Mason-Dixon line. Here's Kara.
Good evening, y'all. My name's Kara, and I am an alcoholic. Good. So good to see so many people here tonight. It's just wonderful. This is a 1-hour speaker meeting that meets every Saturday evening at St. Paul's Lutheran Church, 301 North Main Street, Doylestown, Pennsylvania. Food and fellowship starts at 8 p.m. and speaker at 8:30. This business meeting for this group meets every Saturday at 7 p.m. to 7:30 p.m. right here. Please come early and join us. The purpose of this group is to provide a consistent message of hope and recovery through God reliance and service to others through the practice and teachings of the 12 steps. This is an open meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous. The group would like to welcome everyone, especially newcomers. Is there anyone new or from out of town that would like to introduce themselves with their first name? Welcome, Jay. Hey, Matt. Welcome. Welcome, Tom. Welcome, everyone.
I'm Mike, and I'm an alcoholic.
Welcome. The Conscious Contact Speaker Group encourages sponsorship. Would anyone with working knowledge of the 12 steps and willing to sponsor, please raise your hands. Are there any announcements for the good of AA? We have meeting lists and big books on easy terms. Please see me or any home group member after the meeting. If you cannot afford a big book, the Conscious Contact Speaker Group will give you one at no charge. Anyone willing to make donations for the purpose of big book CDs to help those who cannot afford them can put donations in the jar on the table marked big book and CD donations. Now I would like to ask Amanda to come up and read the Just for Today prayer. Let's give Amanda a warm welcome.
Good evening, everyone. Amanda, alcoholic. Just for today, prayer recovery. Just for today, I will be agreeable. I will look as well as I can, dress becomingly, talk low, act courteously, criticize not one bit, not find fault with anything, and not try to improve or regulate anybody except myself. And now I would like to welcome Michelle up to read the AA preamble.
Hi everybody. I'm Michelle, and I'm a recovering alcoholic.
I'm Michelle.
Where is it? Found it. Alcoholics Anonymous is a fellowship of men and women who share their experience, strength, and hope with each other that they may solve their common problem and help others to recover from alcoholism. The only requirement for membership is a desire to stop drinking. There are no dues or fees for AA membership. We are self-supporting through our own contributions. AA is not allied with any sect, denomination, politics, organization, or institution. Does not wish to engage in any controversy, neither endorses nor opposes any causes. Our primary purpose is to stay sober and to help other alcoholics achieve sobriety. And I'd like to ask Teresa to come up to read the 12 steps.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Teresa, I'm an alcoholic.
Hi, Teresa.
Tank tops will be available in the summer, so make sure you come back in the summer. The 12 steps of AA recovery. 1, we admitted we were powerless over alcohol, that our lives had become unmanageable. 2, came to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity. 3, made a decision to turn our will and our lives over to the care of God as we understood Him. 4, made a searching and fearless moral inventory of ourselves. 5, admitted to God, to ourselves, and to another human being the exact nature of our wrongs. 6, we're entirely ready to have God remove all these defects of character. 7, humbly asked Him to remove our shortcomings. 8, made a list of all persons we had harmed and became willing to make amends to them all. 9, made direct amends to such people wherever possible, except when to do so would injure them or others. 10, continued to take personal inventory, and when we were wrong, promptly admitted it. 11, sought through prayer and meditation to improve our conscious contact with God as we understood Him, praying only for knowledge of His will for us and the power to carry that out. 12, having had a spiritual awakening as a result of these steps, we tried to carry this message to alcoholics and to practice these principles in all our affairs. Kara's going to come back up and get us started.
The seventh tradition states every AA group ought to be fully self-supporting, declining outside contributions. At this time, I would like to pass the basket. We have no dues or fees, but we have expenses. This group provides many services. Your donations cover food, rent, big book, CDs, events, and workshops, etc. There is absolutely no smoking on church property. Please take a moment to silence all cell phones and limit movement during the meeting to avoid distractions. Now, I'd like to introduce the speaker as a good friend of the Conscious Contact Speaker Group. Let's give Peggy from New York a warm welcome. Woo!
Hi everybody, my name is Peggy, I'm an alcoholic. And hello Doylestown. It's really good to be with you guys tonight, and definitely wasn't part of my plan. And I wanted to cancel about 10 times. But I trust God today, and I know that I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be right now, you know. So a little bit about me. My sobriety date is September 8th, 1990. My home group is also Conscious Contact on Staten Island. We meet on Sunday mornings and on Wednesday nights. And I love my home group. And I'm just rotating out of a DCM position in my area. And I have a sponsor. Thank God for sponsorship. And I get to sponsor a really great group of women that keep me on this path and keep me accountable, right? That's what it's all about. So my husband leaned over to me before and went, just start at the beginning. So I got sober really young. I grew up in Staten Island. I was born and raised there. And And I have 3 older brothers, and then me. You know, I was the little girl my mother always wanted. And 3 out of 4 of us are alcoholics. I'm the only one sober today, and that's in God's hands, you know. But I picked up a drink at a really young age, you know, and it's funny, you know, I hear it said in AA, it's something that I love, and it's, you know, we live life forward and we learn looking back, you know. And so everything that I say, I didn't know back then, but it's looking back, I see things so clearly today that I couldn't see then. You know, a big book talks about how we couldn't differentiate the true from the false. And I definitely couldn't differentiate the true from the false when I was drinking. You know, the alcoholic life seemed like a very normal one to me. You know, and if you would just leave me alone, I'll be fine. You know, and if you would just get on board with this, I'd be fine. And, you know, it was everybody else. Until I got to that place where I was the problem, you know. So I picked up a drink. I don't know, what was I, around 11, 12, you know, running around the streets with a cigarette hanging out of my mouth like who I thought I was. And, you know, and raising my daughters at that age, thinking about what I was doing at the ages that they were at, just astounds me today, you know, looking back. But it was in a schoolyard. It was a quart of beer with me and a few of my girlfriends, and we chipped in a quarter each, and we got this quart of beer. And what it did for me, I chased, and I couldn't wait to do it again. You know, I wanted to make those plans right there and then, you know. I loved alcohol. I loved what it did for me. I had a lot of fun in the beginning. You know, I never felt quite right in my own skin. Like I said, you know, I'm the youngest, and 2 of my brothers are alcoholic. And, you know, growing up in an alcoholic home, and my mother's a child of an alcoholic, so that's a whole other story. You know, growing up in my home was pretty chaotic and crazy, but we loved each other, and I come from a good family that loves me, you know. But you would think that it would be the last thing I wanted to do with myself after what my family was going through because of alcoholism. But that was them, and this is me, you know. And that was the attitude that stayed with me, you know. It stayed with me even well into being an Alcoholics Anonymous, and I'll get to that part of my story. So, you know, so I picked up a drink, and I loved it from the beginning. There were other substances also in my story, but because of singleness of purpose, I'll keep it with the alcohol. It all began and ended with the alcohol, you know. And it was more of like a weekend thing, and, you know, I'm sleeping at your house, you're sleeping at my house, and let's go hang out with the boys, and you know, drinking, and you know, I was the girl in grammar school that the kids weren't allowed to hang out with. You know, I was the troublemaker. I was the one always in the principal's office getting in trouble. I was the one that just got by. I was the one that knew how to talk my way out of anything, you know. But the hard part about all that was that by the time my mom got to me, she was pretty hip to this thing, you know, and she had done some Al-Anon and family associations of the various programs that my brothers were in. And, you know, she was pretty on top of me, and you know, she did the sniff test when I came home, and I failed it all the time, and she would punish me, and I'd be stuck in the house for a week or 2 or a month, depending on the severity of the drunkenness that I came in and how late I came home, you know. And the first thing I did when she would let me out was come home drunk that night again, and that was never my plan, you know. My plan was to get nice, behave myself, stay out of trouble so I could continue to do this, you know. As a young teen, you know, I'm talking 12, 13 years old, you know, and I just never could get it right. So, you know, I tell people all the time, it was like I was under house arrest for a couple of years there, you know. I was never allowed out, and, you know, my dad was this, you know, crazy Italian that would be at the door with a baseball bat if any boys came near the house, and, you know, they would like push me home in shopping carts, carry me home, drop me on the doorstep, and, many a nights my dad would be getting up to go to work and find me, down in the hallway, passed out, or, on the bathroom floor, passed out, and, and the whole family was my parents were very up in arms about it, Around that time, they tried to get me into some counseling because my mother thought, I'm going to get this one help. That was like, she would make me watch these shows on TV, and, and basically I was one of those like after-school specials, could have been about me, and, and I would go there and I would talk about everything else but my drinking. I would talk about my brothers and my parents and school, and, and I would get this woman to feel sorry for me. And, I remember I was in it for, I don't know, this came to me like a little bit into sobriety. I remembered this. I was going to see this woman for a while, and one day she says, your mom's telling me you've been getting punished a lot. What's that about? And I was like, oh, well, they're strict. They're just strict people. And she says, well, what's going on? I drank, had a little too much to drink that night, acting like I was 25 years old, I'm like 12 years old. And she's like, well, why don't you go out and just don't drink? Can you do that? And I was like, of course I can do that. You know what, I'm going to do that this weekend. Because I wanted her to get my mother to let me out, So I went out with the intention of, I am not going to drink. I'm going to prove this lady, I'm going to show her that I'm going to go out and have a good time and not drink. And, and I was miserable. First of all, I was miserable because, everybody else is drinking and I'm not drinking, and I'm sitting there looking around and I feel like a fish out of water. And, within an hour, I'd say, I said to myself, what does this lady know anyway? And I started drinking, and it set the whole ball of in motion again. And, I love when they talk about it in our books, I just couldn't be honest, I couldn't be honest. And, alcohol was like my best friend. And I couldn't imagine, like, what do you do if you don't drink? Like, and, as it progressed and, became more and more and more often, and, the blackouts, I would black out, I would get in trouble, I would wind up in situations that I shouldn't have been in, and waking up, as I got older, waking up in strange places that I didn't belong, that weren't home. And, I thought I was a great girlfriend, but, what I did when I was drinking didn't count, and, it just started to get, my friends are starting to go off to college and get these great jobs and do things with themselves. And, I couldn't get off the corner, not the corner, I mean hanging out on the corner. I couldn't get off that corner, and I graduated from the woods to the corner to the bar. And like the excitement I felt that night that they finally let me stay in the bar and didn't kick me out, because I used to try all the time and they'd be like, get out of here. And I was very excited the night they let me stay at the bar, and I earned that seat. Those are the things I looked forward to in life. I don't know about you. And after a while, my parents I guess they were so busy with the other ones, they kind of laid off of me or gave up, I don't know. But, so I would like just get by. The shame and the guilt and the remorse, just started to build up. I also got a DWI when I was 17. I was down the Jersey Shore with a bunch of friends. We rented a house, and I got in a car accident. I got arrested for DWI. My oldest brother, who was in AA at the time, was like working on his 90 days, trying to get his marriage back together. He's down the shore too. He has to come pick up his little sister from the police station. And, he later told me that I proceeded to curse him out, the cop out. He's the alcoholic, arrest him, I'm not an alcoholic. And I had to pick up the phone and call my parents and let them know what happened the night before. And, I do remember, you have those like little moments of clarity. I remember the shame and the embarrassment, of my sitting in the back seat of my brother's car and him driving me back to the house I was staying at, and thinking, I'm not doing that again. And as soon as I got back in the house, within 10 minutes I had a drink in my hand, and I said, yeah, I'm not driving and drinking again while I'm down here anyway. And besides, it wasn't my fault. It was the old people driving in front of me. They probably shouldn't have licenses anyway. And, the rationale over and over, I have that thing in my brain, that tells me it'll be different time and time again, or tells me that I'll find a way to make it all work, or this perfect combination, or, eat pasta before I go out, or, drink beer, don't drink the harder stuff, or, how about some wine spritzers, they can't be all that bad, and it all ended up the same, with me blacked out, drunk, not looking the same when I walked out the way I walked in, usually getting kicked out, 1 minute I was your friend, the next minute I wanted to fight you, I have no idea why, it was just insane. I was having trouble keeping my emotions in check. I was either, aggressively angry or hysterical crying. I was showing up for work later and later, if at all, with excuse after excuse. I worked in social services because I really wanted to help people. While I couldn't help myself. I did my community service from that DWI at an outpatient place that I wound up being a patient in like within a year. But I thought, I'm so glad these people have a place to go, and when can I get out of here, because it's getting late. They made me do it on a Friday night. I didn't think that was funny, And then Saturday morning I had to go to those drunk driving classes, and I'd show up with a pack of gum in my mouth and sit all the way in the back and be like, what's wrong with these people telling them all this stuff? Just shut your mouth and sit down and be quiet, and it'll be over in an hour or so and you go home, And I'd be there straight from the night before, and never registering, nothing registering with me, Now I'm starting to run to therapy because maybe they'll fix me, and I thought, like, maybe if I had the right boyfriend or hung out with the right people or got a different job or, I did everything. I did the geographic, Mom, you have to send me to Florida to go stay with Cousin Donna because I just have to get my whole life together and I can't do it here. And, she would send me to Florida, and I do the same thing there that I did up here. And, it really, nothing was working, and it's starting to dawn on me now that there's a problem, and I still didn't think it was the alcohol. I thought it was that other stuff, and if I could stop doing that, I'll be fine, and, and it all went hand in hand for me, and, I think I knew enough about Alcoholics Anonymous from my brother and the open meetings that I had attended with him, and the family associations that I would go to, as a family member, that I knew the jig was up for a while, but if I admitted that to anyone, then I might have to do something about it, and I still thought, like, I'm too young, I'll get it right, I just have to straighten this out, and it was a Sunday morning. My brother came in with buns and rolls and stuff for dinner. My mother was in the kitchen cooking. I'm on the couch trying to pretend I'm okay, half wishing I had more, the sweats, clammy, uncomfortable, spent all my money again. How am I gonna get to work tomorrow? Feeling regretful, feeling shamed. And my brother walked in and, he's got like 3, 4, 5 months sober, and he's all happy, and I just started crying, and I said, bro, I think I have a problem. And he smiled and he was like, you think, and he was really excited. I wasn't too happy about that, but he said, why don't you come with me tonight to a meeting? It was a great meeting I go to on Sunday nights. Why don't you come with me? And I said, okay, you know, and I went to my first meeting for myself that night, and I really wasn't there to get sober, you know, I just wanted to feel better, you know, I wanted to learn from you guys what I'm doing wrong so I could get it right. I just want to get my head together, you know, because I am never going to stop drinking because alcohol is just too important to me, you know, and what do you do on a Friday night? What do you do on a Saturday night, like, or a Wednesday or a Tuesday or a Thursday for that matter? Like, how do you live without alcohol? How do you go to sleep? You know, how do you go to sleep? And so I started going to some meetings with me. He dragged me around for a while, and then all of a sudden, my mother made these little rules, like, you can't live in this house and drink. And you need to be in an outpatient program and go to Alcoholics Anonymous if you want to remain living in this house. And, you know, so within a week I was out of the house and telling everybody my mother kicked me out, and she never kicked me out. She just said, you can't drink and live here. But to me, it was the same thing. And if a little bit of pity might get me a little something free, I'm going to use it, right? And, you know, pat me on the back and feel bad for me so I don't have to do anything. And that's how it went. You know, I think I was out there, I don't know, a few weeks, definitely not less than a month. And, you know, it felt like forever. And, you know, things got bad quick. You know, I was couch surfing. I stayed with a friend. And, you know, my friend slept on the top bunk with her little sister. I slept on the bottom bunk with the other little sister. And we were like rolling in and rolling out. And it was insane. And half of it I did without a car because I had lost my license. And, you know, now I'm busting it all over the place and counting change and hoping someone shows up on the bus stop and gives me a ride. And I'm living in Brooklyn, and it was crazy. It was really, really crazy. And, you know, I'd love to say that I had this big thing that happened, but I didn't. But what happened was my conscience, I guess, woke up to me one day and just said, what are you doing? You know, you can't go on like this, you know. I was starting to think that my family would be better off without me. I'm starting to think maybe I should kill myself, you know. My life hadn't even started yet, you know. And I used to say I felt like a 40-year-old washed-up woman. Wonder how many people I offended with that line, but that's how I felt. I felt washed up. I felt like my life was over, and I didn't know how to live, you know, sober. So I went back home. I went to the outpatient. I went to AA. You know, I had a job. I worked 2 jobs. I didn't know what to do with myself. It took me months to fall asleep at night. I went to a million meetings. If I wasn't at work or my other job, I was at a meeting or outpatient. I was a nervous wreck. I felt like I was going to crawl out of my skin. Back then, we used to have this sober bowling league. My brother would drag me there on Saturday nights, and I swore everybody was looking at me. And, you know, the paranoia, the delusion, the grandeur, you know, thinking I'm so important, and, you know, thinking I'm too young to be here, and, you know, still comparing. You know, I would do things like, I'm going to stop in the bar and let my friends know how good I'm doing and say hi on my way to the meeting tonight. And you know, one day back, you know, or I'd be in the car and a song would come on and I would just go, you know, one day back. Or I'd go to a sober dance and try to dance sober and I couldn't, so I'd go out dancing, one day back. Or I'd stay in that relationship that I was told was not a good relationship, and things would go south, and I'd go out and drink, one day back. And I did that for about a year, you know, and my mom was about to ship me upstate somewhere for long term, and, you know, I just got tired, and, you know, my friends that I was in program with are relapsing left and right, and for some reason I put both feet in AA. And thank God I had a great counselor back then that was in AA, and she was very encouraging about sticking with AA. She said, "Kid, you're an alcoholic like I'm an alcoholic. You stay in AA, you need it, you know." And I got my first commitment in Alcoholics Anonymous. You know, my home group back then was the Mariners Harbor group, and I got my first secretary commitment, and you know, the guys really surrounded me and were great to me, you know, and they'd say things like, "Don't give up 5 minutes before the miracle," and, you know, all those things that used to really annoy me, you know, but I put both feet in AA, you know, I had both feet in AA, and like I said, you know, when I worked and I was very uncomfortable, but you guys got me in a way that nobody else did. And I got you guys in a way that I just couldn't connect on that level, you know. And the sobriety that I saw in your eyes, I wanted. So I thought, well, if I hang around you guys and I keep coming to these meetings, maybe I'll get what you have. But that was as far as I was going to go, you know. And there wasn't much talk about the big book back then. You know, there were a couple of people on Staten Island. Larry G was one of them. He was one of the pioneers on Staten Island, and he was this loud, outspoken guy covered in tattoos, and I was a little bit scared of him. And, you know, when him or one of his little cronies would come walking in the meeting, I'd go walking out. Like, I wanted no part of that. Like, I thought, in my eyes, that was like, I don't know what the word to use to describe it, because I don't want to be derogatory about it, but it was severe. And besides, I'm only a little bit alcoholic. I got here young, you know. I don't have to go to the lengths you had to go to, you know. And did I really even know what an alcoholic was? No. I knew that alcohol affected me different than my friends. I knew that once I picked up a drink, the drink picked up a drink, and I'd wind up drunk and blacked out again. You know, I knew I had that allergy. I knew I had that obsession, because that obsession stayed with me a while into my recovery, you know. I never want to go through that again, that obsession. And I'm so grateful, you know, for the day that it came that obsession was lifted for me, you know. I think that's probably when I felt a part of Alcoholics Anonymous, you know. So I read a lot of secretary notes, I chaired a lot of meetings, you know, I made a lot of coffee. You know, I was Little Miss AA for a long time, you know. I celebrated a year sober, started dating my husband, and wouldn't you know it. So I always do things backwards, you know. So we're dating about 6 months, and I get pregnant, and you know, so within 3 days it was like, you're pregnant, engagement ring, wedding date, Mike's an alcoholic. You know, of course he is, you know. And on what was supposed to be my wedding day, my husband was shipped off to California to a rehab, you know. And I was just about almost 2 years sober at that point. And, you know, the shame, the guilt, the finger pointing, you know, he's the problem. And I was out of my mind. I was out of my mind. And, you know, and what I would do was I would share everything in a meeting, you know, and I'd feel better and I'd leave the meeting. And, you know, it became my dumping ground, you know, and I would go get mine. It wasn't about giving back. It was about taking what I needed, because I'm still a taker. I'm still self-centered, you know. I'm still an untreated alcoholic. And I lived like that into my 10th or 11th year of sobriety. And at this point, you know, Mike got sober. Every now and then I'd have to like threaten him that I was going to leave, or, you know, we have to go to marriage counseling, or else, you know, we should have another kid. Brianna needs a sister or a brother, and, you know, we need a bigger house, and, you know, the kids are in private school, and My husband's working like a dog, and I don't think I could fit one more thing in a drawer because I'm shopping and shopping and shopping because I'm making everything on the outside look okay, because maybe that'll fix what's going on inside me. Because on the inside, I still felt like that undeserving girl that you just don't understand, something's wrong with me. What is wrong with me? You know, that same feeling that I walked into an AA with, I still was carrying, except now you took my solution away and I'm not drinking. So 3 kids later, my husband struggled with his alcoholism on and off over the years. He put together some time, relapse, put together some time, relapse, and that is just great for a martyr like me. Because now I could share all about what Mike's doing wrong and how that affects me, instead of supporting my husband, and now he's the problem, So now I'm in a place where I'm a stay-at-home wife. I have a beautiful home, 3 gorgeous little girls, the little dog. They're in private school and cheerleading and gymnastics and singing and theater and all that stuff. And now, they become my identity, and Mike's my identity, and who I am in AA is my identity. But showing up out there to live, being a class mom, showing up, I didn't know who I was. I was so uncomfortable, so uncomfortable. I'm fantasizing about picking up a drink, And things would happen, God interrupted so many times, One time he interrupted when I was pregnant with my first daughter. I was like 7 months pregnant out to here, wearing a gold lame shirt, waiting for Mike to pick me up to go out for New Year's Eve. Mike went out to get something and never came back. And I'm on the couch crying because I'm hormonal and pregnant in this gold lame shirt. And I decide that I'm going to walk down to the deli and I'm going to go buy myself a nice 8-pack, because that's going to fix it. Not thinking that I'm pregnant, not thinking how that could affect the baby, not thinking about anything. I'm going and I'm buying it, because I'll show him. And I grab the door of the deli to open it up, and woof, out walks a guy from AA, who stopped for a pack of cigarettes on his way to a meeting. And that's how God shows up for me over and over and over. It's up to me whether I open that door. In step 3 in the 12 and 12, it talks about, willingness being the key to unlock that door. I love that part. And, but I just wasn't willing to change, I wasn't willing to change. I wasn't willing to take that deep, hard look in myself. I was full of fear. And another time that happened to me was after I had my second daughter, and I thought, Mike's worse than me. He should keep going to AA, and I should stay home and raise our children. I shouldn't be leaving the kids home alone at night like this, So I stopped going to AA for a few months. And this bar opened. Like, you used to have to go over this hill to get to where we lived, and this bar opened, right? And I'd be at that red light looking at the blue lights and the black windows, wondering what is going on in there. That's the kind of place I'd like to drink at. And I would lay in bed at night and think, if I leave now, he's sleeping. He'll never know I was gone. The baby will sleep through the night. Everything will be fine. Nobody will know. Those are the things that are going through my mind. So he finally drags me to a meeting one night, and he says, you really need a meeting. You're out of your mind. Just come. Let's go to a meeting, and then we'll go out to dinner. We'll do something. And I want to get away from the kid anyway. So I'm like, sure, I'll go to the meeting, And we go to the meeting, and I sit down in the meeting, and this girl sits next to me, and burning desire, she raises her hand. She just had her second kid. Thought she wasn't an alcoholic. Picked up a drink. Couldn't stop. Her husband was leaving her. She was on her way to detox after the meeting. And I was like, wow. I better make more meetings, because that's what I thought my solution was, you know? So I put both feet back in AA, and, you know, that's kind of like how my sobriety was. It was a roller coaster, you know? And I walked around in Alcoholics Anonymous, an untreated alcoholic, for many years, uncomfortable. Only comfortable when I'm with you guys. You don't know what's really going on with me, because how can I tell you what's going on with me? You'll think I'm crazy. You know, I shouldn't be feeling this way with this much time sober, you know? So, I sponsored a woman who went to this big book workshop, which I was like, whatever, go ahead, have fun. You know, my friend Kathy, and she was like, Peggy, on fire this woman was. Peggy, you gotta go to this workshop. It was unbelievable. I think it changed my life. It's amazing. You gotta go, you gotta go. And you know, and I'm like, I'm not doing that, you know. I have my therapist, my psychiatrist, you know. I'm fine. And, you know, so I start making some different meetings, you know, because I want to shake it up a little bit. And I wind up walking into what was my old home group, the Victory Group. And there's a guy in the meeting, and he's sharing. And he's a guy that I knew from way back when I first got sober. And he was out of his mind, like knife strapped on the leg, like crazy. And he had such a peace about him. And he was sharing about the experience he had going through the 12 steps through the big book. And I was intrigued. And there was a little bit of drama going on at the meeting, like big book, no big book, big book, no big book. And I like drama, so I said, I'm going to keep going to this meeting. I want to see what's going on here. I'm going to investigate thoroughly, you know? So I start going to this meeting regularly on Sundays, and they need a secretary. I'm a great secretary at AA, right? I read the notes, I get them, you know, I know exactly how many notes I should read so it's not too long, and, you know, I take the secretary commitment, I'm at the business meetings, I'm taking notes, I'm investigating further to see what's going on here. Is this guy charging? Like, what's going on, you know? And he's starting up this new big book workshop, and he invited me to go, and, you know, meanwhile, I'm like contemplating suicide again. I'm thinking maybe my husband and kids would be better off without me. There's something wrong with me, you know? So I went to investigate, and I went to this big book workshop, and nothing amazing happened because I wasn't honest, I wasn't open, I wasn't willing, because I would take things they said in AA and turn them to my benefit. You know, take what you need and leave the rest. Do what's comfortable, don't do what's not comfortable, right? Keep the focus on yourself and leave me alone, you know? And that's the kind of stuff I did. And so I didn't have any kind of an experience going through the book at that table. But the experience I did have was I got to witness other people have an experience at that table. I got to watch the light go on in a few people around that table's eyes. And it sparked something in me. But my pride was still too high for me to ask for help, you know. So I kept going to that meeting. Oh yeah, everything's great, thanks. Yeah, I made amends. No, I didn't. You know, I wasn't even honest in my fourth step because I knew I'd have to make amends later on. And you know, you weren't getting an I'm sorry out of me because you're the one that was wrong, not me. And, you know, I was still in that head. Nothing changed. And within like a month or so, some stuff was going on in my family, and I was in a lot of pain. And, you know, listen, I did say that set-aside prayer. Though I didn't set anything aside. I was asking God for help. So I don't know what made me pick up the phone that day and reach out to this guy, but I picked up the phone and I reached out and I said, I need help. And he said, get your book and get your ass to my house. So I got my book and I went to his house, you know, and I did a lot of crying, and I surrendered. I finally surrendered. It took me like 12 years to surrender in Alcoholics Anonymous, you know? But I surrendered. And in the back of my head, I figured I'll give this thing a try. We'll see what happens. I don't know if it's going to work for me, but I know it works. And maybe it'll work for me. And if it does, great. And if it doesn't, I could go to that option B, you know? So we sat down week in and week out. I showed up on time, and I made no excuses, and nothing got in the way of it, you know? I didn't care what was going on. Nothing got in the way of it because it became the most important thing to me, you know? Oh boy, that's my brother who just relapsed calling me. So I put it first, you know, and the steps came alive for me. You know, I didn't understand the whole, you know, I had a God in my life. You know, when I first got sober, I had a great group of women that brought me to this prayer house and said, you need to hit your knees and you need to ask God to help you. You know, you got to pray. And I was like, pray? What, like the rosary? Like, what do you want me to do here, you know? And they said, no, just talk to him. I'm like, talk to him? What do you... That was, I couldn't even fathom that, you know? What do I say, you know? So in the beginning, it was a lot of crying and I'm sorry and please forgive me, because I knew there was a God, but I thought God was for those people that got up and went to work and showed up and lived right, and God was not. I was in the dark. I was in a dark place, and I didn't think God wanted anything to do with me, you know? And, you know, but I started, you know, that was the little mustard seed, you know, but, so I believed in God, but I didn't know how to rely on him. I didn't get what you meant, turn it over. I didn't get any of that, you know. And for a little while, I want to say that my sponsor was like a higher power to me. I trusted that he believed. I trusted that he knew this process. I trusted him, you know. And he said, I want to be your first phone call when anything happens. And I would pick up the phone and call him, and he would direct me back to God and hang up. And I would pray and then call him back, and, you know, when I got to my fourth step this time, you know, so I knew I needed God. I hoped God would restore me to sanity, you know. I was willing to turn my life over, whatever that meant, you know, and now I start on this vigorous course of action, this dreaded fourth step. And I got to tell you, I didn't dread it. I was excited about it because I wanted to get rid of whatever was blocking him from me, because I knew I was blocked. I knew I had to get rid of this stuff. I knew I had to change. My book told me so. My sponsor told me so. My experience told me so. If I didn't change, I was going to die. I was going to drink and die a slow death, or I was going to take myself out, because I couldn't go on the way I was living, sober. So I don't know how to live with a drink. I don't know how to live without a drink. I'm screwed, right? So I sit down and I write this thorough fourth step, which was very hard to do a fifth step with a man for me. I think it was just as uncomfortable for him, but I sat through it and I was willing, and I did my fifth step, and I shared my fourth step, and, you know, I looked for my part. He showed me my part. You know, I got to see my character defects right up here. I asked God to remove them. You know, I sat down and wrote that list, most of which came from my fourth step, some didn't. And I set out to make amends, you know. The most important amends to me at that time was the one I made to my husband, you know. At that point, what were we married? How long were we married then? Like, about 15 years. So I saw my part, you know. The only part I ever saw was his, you know, because I'm a little bit alcoholic, I'm a little bit codependent, you know. And I had to make amends. I had to make amends for pointing a finger. I had to make amends for not being there for him as his wife. I had to make amends for the overspending I did and blaming him for that too. You know, I had to make amends for the threats and holding our marriage over his head, you know, for trying to run his recovery. You know, I wasn't easy to live with or get along with. You know, I was tough. I had this tough exterior, boy. I have softened, believe it or not, so much. So I made amends to my husband. I didn't know that a few months after that he was going to pick up a drink and go on a 4-year run, and then I was going to really be able to make amends by minding my business, working my own program, letting him find his own way. You know, but that's what happened. You know, I made amends with my husband, and heartfelt, and got to do a living amends for the next 4 years, that when he picked up a drink and became not alcoholic, and, you know, you pushed me into AA anyway, and all that stuff. You know, it was a really, really rough time, you know. But I have to tell you, I think I learned more through that than him, because I found my voice, I found my footing in AA. I did more service in those 4 years than I did in the previous 15 years. I sponsored women, I chaired events, I got involved in general services, I went on speaking commitments, you know, I did so much, you know, and I got to a place where, you know, lots of inventory, you know, and I say things to my sponsor like, you mean I have to make an amends to him? He's the one drinking, you know, and he'd be like, if you don't want to be drinking, you better make that amends, you know? You're responsible for your side of the street, keep it clean. Are you being an example of this big book in action to him? Are you a demonstration? And that's what I chose to be, you know? 4 years into that relapse, God put it on my heart that it was time for me to go, you know. My daughters are now preteen teenagers, driving us crazy. My home is falling apart, you know, at the seams. I'm trying to hold it together. They're saying things to me like, you're helping all these women, why can't you help your own husband, you know? And, you know, it was a rough time, and I went to him. We had an AA wedding that was coming up, and I said, look, I have this wedding to go to. And he was like, we have this wedding to go to. I said, no, I'm gonna go to the wedding. I'd rather you don't come. As a matter of fact, there's something I need to talk to you about. I think it's time we went our separate ways. And I meant it from my heart, you know. I didn't do it with an expectation or a threat or, you know, because I was, at that point, I wanted him to be whoever he wanted to be, but I just couldn't live in the way we were living anymore. I was very unhappy in our marriage, and, you know, we make plans and God laughs, right? So what does he say a day later? You know, I'm gonna do something about my drinking. And I'm like, yeah, buddy, that's nice. I've heard it a million times. That's fine, I hope you do. Good luck with that. I have a meeting to get to. And I just went about my business, you know. So he begged and said, please let me come to that wedding with you. And, you know, I really want to try to make this right. And I said, all right, come to the wedding. And we went in a car with another couple. And the husband and me had been sharing a lot of inventory because he's my friend Tommy. He's just great with inventory. And I knew that I had to keep my network real tight at that time, you know. And so I was sharing a lot of inventory with him. So he knew exactly what was going on with Mike, you know. And then the following weekend, I had a graduation party for my daughter who was graduating high school. And we had a graduation party in the yard, and Tom and his wife are over again. And I see Mike leave the yard with Tom. I'm like, oh God, here we go, what's happening, you know? And he came in really excited that he asked Tom to sponsor him. You know, and Tom is a guy that Mike ran away from for years, you know, and he asked Tom to sponsor him. And so now, you know, I'm like, Tom, I said I'm ready for the big D word, and, you know, I don't think I could ever trust him again, and I think it's time for me to move on. And Tom's like, oh, it's been almost 20 years, like, give it a few months, let's see if he's for real or not, you know. And I said, all right, you're right. God, whatever your plan is for me, you know? And I gave him the space to do what he had to do, and then I got my amends. You know, my husband made amends to me, and it was the most heartfelt conversation I think we've ever had. And from that moment to this moment, I've never looked back, and things have never been better. You know, I think in his first year of sobriety, we had no money, we were about to claim bankruptcy. You know, our kids were driving us crazy. We did a year of family counseling, you know, a lot of traveling, a lot of AA, to different places. And, you know, I can't believe the miracles that have happened in my life. You know, like I got on board with this stuff. I got honest. You know, they say get honest like you never got honest before. You know, trust God, clean house, help others, and the rest will come. And I got it in truckloads, you know. My relationship with my husband, with my family. I wish I had time to talk about some other amends that I've made more recently, because it's a journey, it's a lifelong journey, you know, and we could always go deeper, and there's always more to do. You know, I can't stay sober on what I did last week or last year in Alcoholics Anonymous. I have to stay sober on what did I do today? Where am I presently in these steps? Where am I presently in this triangle? You know, what am I doing today for my recovery? Because I'm not cured. I'm restored to sanity when I'm in fit spiritual condition. What am I doing to stay in fit spiritual condition today? Who have I helped today? I'll go to my husband every now and then and say, I got it from him. He did it to me, so I do it back now. How am I doing? Is there anything I can do better? How are we? Is there anything we need to work on? You know, when this opportunity came up, he says, you know what? Let's get a room up there. Let's go for dinner. Let's do the meeting. Let's spend the night. Let's have a night together. I didn't even get into all that's been going on in my family. I'm a caretaker for my mom now, who has Alzheimer's and lives downstairs. We're caretakers for his dad, who lives behind us and has cancer. His mom died of COVID 2 years ago. His brother's autistic and lives home. It's like, it's a lot. So when we get these little moments, we try to take them because it's important for our marriage and our relationship. It's important for my sobriety that I take care of myself. I can't pour from an empty cup. You know, God helps me keep balance, helps me discern what's of me and what's of him. What needs to come off my plate? What do I need to put on my plate? God, show me the way. And he can only show me the way if I'm clear, if I'm writing that inventory, if I'm getting up in the morning and taking that time to pray and meditate, if I'm being accountable to my sponsor and being honest with her, if I'm not just checking boxes on that inventory, but really thinking and connecting with my spirit and connecting with my higher power. You know, these are the things I do today. I wish that my two brothers were sitting here with us tonight. I don't know what the difference is between me and them, why I have this thing called sobriety and they don't. But all I could do is be a demonstration. I'm powerless over other people. If I could bottle this and give it away, I absolutely would. But you have to be willing to take the action. I have to be willing to take the action every single day to stay sober and have a peace in my heart that I search for at the bottom of every bottle, in every man, in every job. Thank God I got sober and had a program when I did, or who knows how many more kids I would have had, you know. I can't fix me. I just can't, you know. So I clear a path for God, you know, for God to come in and show me the way, and he has, and I have a beautiful life as a result of that. So yes, I will drive an hour and a half and share my experience, strength, and hope to keep what I have. So thank you for helping me stay sober today.
Let's have another round of applause. It's customary to form a line and thank our speaker. They come here at their own time and expense, so we'll do that here after the prayer. We could use some help cleaning up. I don't know about the chairs. That just stays as it is. Okay. Always use help in the kitchen. Let's give a thanks to the coffee maker. And also to Ron and Annette for all the service they provide, the food and everything. And those who care to join us will close with the Lord's Prayer. Our Father, who art